My name is Wanda Stevens, and today I'm going to be presenting my topic of should we tax churches? Well, I'm going to begin with a famous quote by Thomas Jefferson, the writer of the Declaration of Independence. Erecting the wall of separation between church and state is absolutely essential in a free society. And today, our government currently agrees with that by saying groups like churches are beneficial and stabilizing influences in community life, and they deserve to be tax exempt. Why is this such a big issue? Well, taxing is a big issue because it has to do with money. Another problem or an issue that comes up is freedom of religion versus freedom of speech. And a lot of people debate this because in the Constitution, our First Amendment right should say that preachers should be able to say whatever they want from the pulpit, and that the IRS doesn't have the right to control that. Well, under the Johnson Amendment by President B. Johnson, it states that tax-exempt groups like churches and charities can't speak for or against political candidates. And that's another weird law that we have that kind of cuts what the Constitution says. And another reason why it's a big issue. And if they do so, they will be liable for taxation. But it could famously be quoted by George Carlin, saying that if churches want to get involved in public policy, government, and politics, then tax them. If you tax alone the Catholic Church, you would be able to pay off the national debt. That's a great idea. I mean, I think if you want to get involved, if churches want to break that wall of separation and get involved in politics, then they need to pay for it. Currently, our president, one of the things he campaigned for was to allow pulpit preaching and that he would get rid of the Johnson Amendment. Now, whether that means that they're going to start paying for it or not, I'm not sure. Another problem that you have with taxes and churches is what constitutes a church. Well, the best example I can give you of a fake church taking advantage of this tax-exempt status is the Church of Scientology. The Church of Scientology was founded by L. Ron Hubbard, a famous science fiction writer, back in the 80s, and famous members of the church would be Tom Cruise and John Travolta. Basically, the more money you give, the more knowledge you acquire to what in the world is the Church of Scientology about. And when you get down to the itty-gritty amount of it, it's science fiction, basically. What this doesn't necessarily seem like a problem, right? Except that the Church of Scientology is accumulating large amounts of wealth at the public's expense. And by the public's expense, I mean auditing. People that are part of the Church of Scientology are audited. And that means they give money to acquire more knowledge. Another practice that the church uses is disconnection. And what I mean by disconnection is if I was in the Church of Scientology and my mom disagreed with the belief systems, then I would have to disconnect, separate myself from my family member for whatever amount of time that family member disbelieved in the Church of Scientology. Well, this doesn't fall under Thomas Jefferson's and the Founding Fathers' belief of life, liberty, and a pursuit of happiness. It does not fall in line with that at all. And so that is harmful to society. Another problem is prosperity gospels. And by prosperity gospels, I mean churches that acquire large amounts of money by saying, give today and I will heal your problems tomorrow. And that's, give or take, good and bad. Another issue that we have is that churches start acting like a business in certain circumstances. Like auditing, and prosperity gospel philosophies. And I think a famous quote of what to do about that is from Pope Francis. He said that if a church becomes more about making money than fulfilling its religious responsibilities, then tax them. Otherwise, it's not fair business. And that makes a lot of sense. An example of a real church that most of us would agree is an actual system of beliefs founded contextually would be the Church of Mormon. They have famously been cited for getting involved in politics and becoming a political machine, especially during the 2008 Proposition 8 gay marriage ban back in 2008. They did not report $30 million given by their members in support of that proposition. That's churches getting involved in politics. Constitutionally, it's wrong. And I also morally believe that's wrong. Another reason that people say in opposition to that is that taxing churches could actually hurt democracy. What do I mean by that? Well, churches are humanitarian funders. They support hospitals, schools, and shelters. In many cases, when a government would not. During the Supreme Court in McClellan versus Maryland in 1819, the court famously said that the power to tax involves the power to destroy. And I think we all know that to be true. Churches don't get government funding, and so it is viable for them to ask for tithes or audits to support their church functions if they fall in line with helping the public good. If you did start taxing churches, then you run into the problem of double taxation, where I'm already getting taxed on what I make. I don't want the church to get taxed again on that. So basically, what I'd like to end by saying is that keeping the church and taxes, the state, separated is a good idea. I do believe that the law surrounding what defines a church, and if they're not met in line with helping the public good, then they should be taxed. I think that should happen. I think it falls in line with the Thomas Jefferson's definition of life, liberty, and a pursuit of happiness for all men. And it's a good idea not to tax churches unless they break those outstanding means. Thank you so much for watching my presentation. This is Taxing Churches.